Yeah, the tree of meaning actually, I will mention how it was discovered. It was discovered because I had two experiences, two collabs. One collab was, I don't remember the dates very well, forgive me for that, but I think it was around 2000. And we did a collab with a group of, it was actually, the sponsor was the American Mental Health Association. And the subject matter of this collab was, at the time, there was a movement to use the internet for psychotherapy. And they were psychologists, for example, who advertise that if you want to be therapized, because you have a mental health issue, you can connect to the internet and I will therapize you by, over in other words, virtually, what we are doing now with the Zoom. That was one thing, and we did a collab in which we included mental health consumers, as we call them, mental health consumers, and also the providers of those services, which were some kind of companies that had established this service. And during that experience, I learned that the people, the mental health consumers became very upset because, as you know, the structure that democratic dialogue imposes discipline. It requires them, to wait for their time to talk. It has all these other attributes of listening, of learning, of not interrupting and stuff like that. So the mental health consumers became agitated. We managed to complete that process, and I reflected then at the time, I was a facilitator, I reflected, why were they so angry with me? Because I was asking them to be disciplined. And then about a month or 2 months later, we did another collab, and I was a facilitator for a collab with Native people, Native Americans. And LaDonna Harris was the broker, and Laura Harris was involved, actually she facilitated with me. Now, during this collab, I recognized there were young Native Americans, not chiefs, not older people, young people. And the young people started objecting, and thanks to LaDonna, we managed to complete this work. But they started objecting to the discipline, to the fact that here was a facilitator named Christakis who was telling me, wait your turn, don't listen or don't talk and stuff like that. And I then traveled to Albuquerque to visit LaDonna to actually debrief that experience. And it was during that visit I recognized that there was something in common between the Native Americans and the mental health consumers. That's what they had in common. They were both people that had been oppressed by others. They had been oppressed in terms of others telling them what to do. In fact, the mental health consumers, one of the findings of that collab was, one of the big findings was nothing about us without us. That was really the core of this, the core principle that emerged from this collab. Nothing about us, the mental health consumers, without our engagement. So in a sense, this was essentially, although it was not explicit, the Native Americans also said, we want to be heard. We don't want the white guy, Christakis, to tell us when to talk and when not to talk and when is our turn. So because of those two experiences, I started reflecting and came up to, we had the laws, we had the 6 laws of the methodology, namely the law of parsimony, the law of variety, the law of authenticity, the law of meaning, and some of them are recorded in the literature. But then I started saying, now let's see whether those laws are connected. And what's the connection? So I remember actually I was by the pool in La Donna's home, and I built a tree in which it came out. I just did a little ISM, if you like, by myself. And what emerged was that the root of that tree was the discipline dialogue. So in a sense, if you want to converge to a consensual meaning for a group, to agree on the meaning, you have to impose some discipline, which actually liberates them. It doesn't really constrain them, it liberates them. So the tree starts at the bottom. I think I don't remember it now, but people can look at it. It says that the root is discipline dialogue to avoid cognitive overload. And then it contributes to, I think, to authenticity, then to variety, and then to some of the others. I don't remember them now, but ultimately at the top of this tree, which has 6 levels, we have the meaning. So the facilitator, by internalizing that tree, recognizing, in other words, that discipline will help in the emergence of consensual meaning, the facilitator should keep in mind that he or she are imposing the discipline in order to liberate the participants and to help them learn together and converge to a consensual meaning. So the facilitator, by having the tree of meaning in mind, somehow it legitimizes the role of the facilitator, because, as I said before, the mental health consumers were angry about the discipline, and so were the Native Americans. But if the facilitator recognizes that they're doing that, not in order to oppress the participants, but to liberate them by imposing the discipline and avoiding cognitive overload and the learning together. So that's the answer to why the facilitator should be completely aware of the tree of meaning.